April 9th, 2022. I had a dream, and in my dream, there's a lot of women, and there's this feeling of there's sadness and worry and being unsure, reluctance about being a mother, about giving birth, getting pregnant. There's this desire to have a baby, but at the same time there's fear, was what I picked up on. And it wasn't so much my fear because it felt like I was looking, so I wasn't really a part of the dream. It was me looking. I was just like observing what was happening. And there was a woman, and there was such a desire within her to get pregnant, but she kept having miscarriages. That was a feeling, like she kept having miscarriages. She was really, really sad. And we were in this hospital building type of place, and the nurse was with her. And there was this feeling that on the outside of this place, like the outer world, there was almost this feeling of, I don't want to say destruction, this feeling of like that it wasn't the best time, it wasn't the best time to have babies. Like there was just this feeling of like, not the end of the world, because there's no such thing as the end of the world, but there was just this feeling of not destruction, but just that it just wasn't a good time because of what was happening in the outside world. Like there was just this feeling of like fear of having babies because of what was happening on the outside world. That's the impression that I was being left with. That there was this fear to give birth, this fear to bring about a new generation because of what was happening, the details of the outside world. And there was almost this feeling within me of encouraging. There was this feeling within me of, no, like this is the time to have babies. Like this is the time to create, right? In the middle of the destruction. I guess I'm gonna use the word destruction. In the middle of the chaos, if you will, or the falling apart of what was happening in the outside world, there was almost this feeling within me of like, no, like encouraging, have a baby, like this is the time to have a baby. And the reason for that is that this is us learning the lessons. This is us in the moment of opportunity to change what will be, right? There was this feeling, that was the feeling that I was left with, like, no, like keep trying. Like I was trying to encourage this mother and the women, really, because the feeling was, she was kind of like symbolic of the women. And I was just trying to encourage her, like, this is the time. And there was this feeling of like learning the lessons and teaching the next generation how to do it differently, right? Because of everything that we've learned as a society. That was a feeling that I got. That was a feeling that I got. from that one scene. And there was more to it, but that's the one scene that stands out because I saw her have a miscarriage. Like she was bleeding out. I saw the blood coming out of her. And the sad and the grief and the sadness within her because she really wanted this baby. But at the same time there was this feeling of like from people, and it was like within her, but there was more of a desire within her. And the nurse and the feeling of the other women that weren't there, it was just the energy that I was picking up on. There was this like why are you trying to have a baby around this time? Like almost like questioning, like why are you trying to have a baby around this time? Like there's so much going on in the world. Like they're almost discouraging it or judging her. It was more of a judgment of her because she wanted a baby very much so. I could feel her desire and her disappointment when she was having this miscarriage, and the sadness and the grief. And there was just this intuitive like don't give up, like keep trying feeling within me, like don't give up. It doesn't matter what's going on in the outside world. This is the time. That was the feeling too, like this is the time to create something new, to create, like learn for like this a feeling of like learn from the lessons, learn from the outside world, learn from the lessons so that you can birth something new. That was a feeling that I got from that dream, which is so bizarre because there's just this, I mean, for those of you that have followed my journey, right, you know what how I have shifted with this idea of being a mother, how I was just so repelled by the idea before. And a lot of it was because of the fear that I would repeat the cycle, that I would be caught up in that same trauma, right? And then the shift that occurred, there was resentment. Well, initially, I think the first video that I spoke on was this awareness from that movie, that nature, what is that, the octopus movie. And I guess I'll include all the links where I'm talking about motherhood, and I'll do that. I'll include all the links of the other videos in my past where if I remember all of them, but the few that stand out the most, where I'm acknowledging the sacrifice of a woman, of a mother, in that process, the giving of herself physically, right, the whole biological component of it, and the appreciation that I am realizing, right, of the role of a mother when I was so repelled by it before. And then the shift to remembering, right, my own journey with quote unquote infertility at that time when it was really stress induced, and just the position, the experiences that I had, right, when the dream that I had with the healer coming down my window, I was like, no. And then the other dream of the bunnies, knowing what it represented, like there was just this knowing that the dream of the bunnies were my babies, right? And how much I actually desired that, and not realizing, right, that I did. And then the other dream of where I actually had my 3 babies, and the worry, there was worry that I was too old, in to have a baby, because I felt like I looked down and my nipples were old. I'm like, oh my gosh, are they even gonna work? And they end up working. And like just being grateful that I could provide, because my North Node is in the 10th house of father work, Like, I know I'm meant to be a provider. And then this new person and I had a conversation. I don't know how it came up. I mean, I do know now because I remember asking him in the middle of the conversation, how did we get to this topic of babies? And all he asked me was, have you created art? That's what he asked me. Do you paint? Do you create? Or something like that. And I was actually trying to explain how I was doing more of the arts and crafts. But then that triggered baby showers, because that, you know, everyone around me was having babies, but not me. And so it was just funny that I started talking about babies. And he just wanted to know if I painted or created. And I mean, babies are creation, right? And then I remember catching myself. I'm like, whoa, like, well, how did I start talking about this? And I'm like, oh, sorry. And I think he reached over and he, like, just like, you know, like, it's okay. That was the feeling that it was okay. And it, you know, the funny thing was that in that moment, I realized that I had given myself previously a time frame of like, I'm not going to have a baby beyond 35, I think was the time frame that I'd given myself. Either we have a baby before 35 or we don't. And then through this journey, right, I realized like, no, I would so be open to having a baby. Like, I'm not going to allow time or what's typical, because that's what I told him too. I was just like, did you know that after 35 it's called a geriatric pregnancy? And look, they make you feel old. And this realization that I had, that I'm like, I'm not gonna let age stop me. I'm not. Like, a lot of people get to that point of, oh, I feel old, and just feeling like they're supposed to slow down, or feeling like their bodies are supposed to break down. And in my head, I'm like, no, that's not going to be me. I'm going to keep at it. I'm going to keep working. I'm going to keep making sure I pay attention to my body, right, as best as I can. Because if I'm okay, then the people around me will be okay. So is there like a biological clock, like impregnate me? No, there isn't. But would I like to have a child at, you know, I'll be 41 in a couple of months. I wouldn't mind if 5 years down the road I have a child. I don't mind. Even 10 years. I think I'll still look good at 10 years. I mean, I look good now, right? People think I'm in my 20s or 30s. Now I think I'm starting to show a little bit more, so it's no longer I look 20. I'm getting closer to the gap to 30, in my 30s. But yeah, I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't. Like, there's no more fear around it. There's no more fear around that the cycle will repeat, or that I'm bringing my child into a world of destruction. Like, no. If anything, it's an opportunity, again, to create, just for the fun of creating a mini-me, right? Of raising a mini-me, right? A part of me, really, because it's a part of the other person as well. And a part of us, right? An expansion of us. And I mean, how often do we hear our parents say, be better than me? It's because they're an expansion of us. They're better than us already, just by existing. They're already an expansion of us. Wherever they fall on that, you know, spectrum of love, they're an expansion of us. And how much fun it would be just to be able to focus on that and experience that. I mean, Picasso was well into his 70s, right? And who says that a woman can't do that, right? And be ready and be prepared and have the energy, right? You do what you do. So am I open to that? Yes. Yes. 100 times yes. Am I desperately seeking it? No, I'm not. If it happens, great. If it doesn't, that's great too. Because I've had enough experiences in my life where I've had a whiff of it. I've had a whiff of motherhood by raising my nieces and my nephews, making them feel special, trying to teach them. I've had a whiff, and that's all I need to be okay. You know, taste of what could be, and or what is at the same time. Because you can be both. You can be both. That was a video I posted today. I think I posted today. Let's see. It was finding the balance within. And I talk about how nirvana, this idea of nirvana and energy, and how to experience it. And I was thinking, I went for a walk yesterday, and with this idea, because the theme this week with my clients was this element of their truth, right? And how they feel broken, they feel damaged. And I anticipate that that's going to come up today in at least one of my sessions. But I was thinking about that. I had been reflecting on it the whole week. And in one particular case, one of my clients had a case manager who was opposing my client's belief of where she was at. That the case manager was telling her, no, there's nothing wrong with you. And my client feels damaged, broken, right? And my client was getting so upset that the caseworker kept, nothing's wrong with you, nothing's wrong with you, nothing's wrong with you. Like over and over and over, like to a degree. And my client was getting worked up. She's like, I had to hang up on her because she wasn't listening. She was disregarding her truth. I said, no, you're right, you're right. So I prompted and I called someone unconditional love. And I have a feeling that this person is going to tell me they don't feel that way. So I was walking yesterday and I saw a daisy. And I thought, what a lovely daisy, right? It's perfect. It's there in the wild. It's doing its thing, blooming, right? And then I thought of someone else looking at it and saying, what an ugly flower. Because they don't like yellow or whatever, right? It's so simple. Daisies, there was a time in my life that I actually loved daisies. And but I heard that same like statement back in imaginary conversations in my head, right? Like, what a beautiful, perfect flower. And then this imaginary voice, that's such an ugly flower. So then I thought about it and I'm like, can the flower be both at once, right? Can the flower be both at once? And I'm like, yeah, it totally can be both at once, right? Because it's two perspectives looking at the same thing. And so then I thought, right, can one opposing thing be another opposing thing all at once? Yes. And then I wrote in the write-up, for example, can I be unconditionally perfect, but also broken or damaged at the same time? So then I put, I think so, I believe so, and then I put, I am so, I've been so. I've been, unconditionally perfect, but also feeling broken. I didn't realize that I was unconditionally perfect at that time in my life. I just felt the brokenness. Most of my life, I felt broken. And I woke up with that thought, that word in my mind yesterday morning, and I left this new person a message, and I was just like, broken. I felt broken most of my life. And I don't feel broken anymore. I don't feel broken. But for most of my life, I did. And so then I put, I am both. Unconditionally perfect, but also broken if the moment presents itself as such. if the moment presents itself as such. If that moment I feel broken, then broken I am. Knowing that this moment of brokenness is only temporary. Knowing that with time, this state of being will shift, change, and transform into a state of healing. This is what I believe. It helps me to accept all that unfolds as is. It helps me to stay balanced. This idea of whatever works, right? And I know that for each person, whatever works will look different, and that is okay too. That's what I thought about. We can be two things at once. And then I thought about this good and bad complex, that we're so, the separation of it, right? And the idea of this interpersonal violence that is occurring, and what I'm learning about in my classes in regards to the challenges of people owning their mistakes. This element of owning that I did a bad choice, because if I did a bad choice, that the fear is that I'm a bad person, right? And the reality is no, like you can be a good person who makes a bad choice. You can be both at once if you view it in that way, and or separate yourself from the choices so that you can take ownership of your choices, knowing that it was a choice, that it has nothing to do with your sense of value and worth, that you just made a choice that had this ripple effect. And if you can view it in that way, then the likelihood of you taking ownership of it will be higher. And you can then partake in the restoration, right? And the transformation that is needed so that something like that doesn't happen again. That's what I was thinking about. I didn't realize how that was gonna get triggered by that dream. But that's what got triggered by that dream. I mean, part of that I was thinking about yesterday, because that was part of my reflection for the video that posted today. Because I haven't gotten, I'm just so preoccupied with everything else that I haven't, ¿cómo se llama? I haven't, the videos aren't in advance, like they're prepared, but I haven't prepared them. They're put together. That's the better word. They're put together, but I haven't done the third watch. So is it? Yeah, no. It's 2 watches. I see them twice. 3. I see them 3 times, but the third time's already when it's done. The first time is when I'm trying to put it together and create the title, and then the second time is when I actually upload it and do the little write-up that I listen to it again. And then the third time is just when it's already posted, and you know, because I am my biggest fan. If not me, then who? So that's all. I'll leave it at that. Hi, my name is Yubi, and in case you haven't figured it out, this footage is capturing my experience as I learn to navigate my personal spiritual awakening. I am learning that this experience is unique to each one of us. In whatever way we believe we are embracing living our truth, this just happens to be my journey. And despite me having a graduate degree and a license in clinical social work, this by no means is intended to replace any type of mental health advice. This is just me on a personal level, documenting my experience, shedding light on the truth that I am learning and discovering for myself, and really inviting you along for the ride. If by some magical chance you find this content to be helpful in any way, shape, or form, please click the like button, share the message, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I have an Instagram account, a personal one, and one specifically for this channel that you're more than welcome to check out. I'm an open book. I have also created t-shirt designs. I'm wearing my favorite one right now, which is the North Node design, but I have that and other things that you can look at inspired by this process and journey, and I have the link in the description box as well as in the about section of my YouTube channel. So you're more than welcome to check those items out. Any type of support is, you know, great. Again, if you find this content really helpful or meaningful, sometimes when we take that step and be vulnerable, you know, with showing what's inside our hearts and what's really our truth, we realize that we're much more connected than what we thought we were. And so I hope that as I'm living this experience, and that you find some type of truth for yourself, or find some type of ability to heal in some way just by relating, you know, just by knowing that you're not alone. That really has been my goal with this process, not just being able to connect with others, but really for my own healing. It's definitely been a therapeutic experience and a very creative one for myself. So I thank you, and I wish you all the best, and you know, we'll see what else comes next for me.